Muhammad the Great of Ottoman Turkey said, heroism has 9 faces, which 8 belongs to Ethiopia and the rest is the whole world shares. Egypt tried to invade Ethiopia so many times, but they never succeeded. They defeated by Ethiopia twice. To start from the beginning, Egypt was invaded by Ottoman Turkey in 1560 and Napoleon Bonaparte of France in 1798. But French occupation of Egypt lasted for only 3 years. But it had influenced the course of Egyptian history in the years of ahead. How? Firstly, it led to the fall of Mamluk dynasty that ruled Egypt for 6 centuries. And secondly, it led to a joint Anglo-Ottoman military operation which expelled the French army from Egypt in 1801. Liberated Egypt, however, soon fell under the control of Muhammad Ali, who founded a new dynasty that ruled Egypt up to 1952. Muhammad Ali was a general who originally came to Egypt in command of Albanian contingent in the Ottoman army. Once he seized power in 1805, his first goal was to establish a firm economic and political base for his rule. The next plan of Muhammad Ali was the modernization and transformation of Egypt to a powerful state. This was how the idea of Greater Egypt or Egyptian expansion in the Middle East and the Horn of Africa was conceived. However, the expansion of the Middle East was resisted by the Britain from the very beginning. Muhammad Ali saw bright prospects in the southern expansion towards Sudan and the neighboring regions in Africa. He hoped to control the gold mines in the regions and the upper water of the Nile, as well as the Red Sea region. Controlling the Red Sea was aimed at controlling the lucrative trade of the Ethiopian region. And also, this is true of his ambition to control Arabia. In 1821, the Egyptian army overran the Sudan, and they used occupied Sudan as a stepping stone to attack the border western Ethiopia of the western region of Ethiopia. This Muhammad Ali's expansion into the border of Ethiopia was a revival of an old Egyptian ambition to control the source of areas of the water of the Nile. The Egyptian threat to Ethiopia coincided with the period of economic and political crisis of the Zaman Masafent or era of the princes. And it continued during the reign of Emperor Theodorus, who ruled Ethiopia from 1855 to 1868. And the conflict reached its peak during the reign of Emperor Yohannes, who ruled Ethiopia from 1872 to 1889. Here is the story. The Egyptian ruler Khedive Ismail Pasha inherited the policy of aggressive expansion adopted by his predecessors. Under Ismaili, the idea of building a greater Egypt in Northeast Africa was given a new momentus. He hoped to establish mastery over the Nile Valley and its sources. So, as the source of Blue Nile, Ethiopia became a major target of Egyptian expansion. So, Egypt took offensive measures on Ethiopia. The architect of Egyptian aggression in Ethiopia was a Swiss German named Werner Musinger. Musinger had served as a French consul at Nasir but entered into Egyptian services in 1871. In 1872, Musinger led an invasion into the region of Bogas in the present-day Eritrea. At the same time, Egyptians followed a policy of trying to get the support of Ethiopian dissatisfied nobles against Yohannes' force. Nevertheless, they failed to enlist many collaborators, but they get some collaborators. On his part, Emperor Yohannes IV of Ethiopia had already felt the Egyptian threat before his coronation. However, he was not ready for a military confrontation with Egypt. For the first 3 years of his reign, he had to bring local rebellions under control and strengthen his imperial power. Yet, he did not remain passive. The first reaction of Yohannes was a diplomatic campaign aimed at seeking a peaceful solution for the Bogas crisis. To this end, he wrote a letter to Khedive Ismail Pasha. In the letter, he protested Egyptian occupation of Bogas, defined his boundary in the northeast, and demanded the withdrawal of Egyptian troops from Ethiopia. But Khedive Ismail ignored the protest and continued to take control for more territories. Yohannes continued to look for a diplomatic solution. In August 1872, Yohannes sent letters to the rulers of Britain, France, Germany, Austria, and Russia. He informed the European powers of the unlawful invasion of his country by Egypt. Unfortunately, Europe was not prepared to help Johannes. They side with Egypt, as they did today. In 1875, the Egyptian invasion came from the direction of the sea along 3 fronts. The first front, an Egyptian army led by Mohammed Rauf Pasha, moved from the port of Zaila and controlled the empire of Harar in October 1875. The second front, Muzinger led a small Egyptian army of about 400 men from the port of Tajura into Afar territory in Ethiopia. The aim of his expedition was to control the trade routes of Wollo and Shua. However, almost all soldiers of Muzinger, including himself, were killed in late November 1875 by the Afar people who were fiercely resisting the invaders. These Afar peoples are a hero who recently strongly fought and resisted the invasion of TPLF to the neighboring regions and to the capital city of Ethiopia. They fought alongside with Amhara people and Ethiopian National Defense Force. The third front of Egyptian invasion was army of about 300 men under a mercenary from Denmark named Colonel Aregawi, entered via NetsaWuyiyit in the northern Ethiopia. Though small in number, his army was well armed and had modern training. It reached the region north of the Merab River with a little resistance. Johannes found no other alternative but to mobilize his army and defend his empire. He declared a war on Egypt on 23 October 1875. Within 2 weeks, he mobilized about 20,000 to 30,000 soldiers. On 16 November 1875, Ethiopia and Egypt fought at the Battle of Gundat near the Merab River. The Egyptian army was encircled and the Ethiopians scored a complete victory at Gundat. A large number of Egyptian soldiers, including Denmark, Aregawi, were killed. The Ethiopians captured arms and prisoners for Egypt. The Ethiopian victory was a serious blow to her grand ambition of imperial expansion. Ismail determined to avenge his defeat and began to mobilize a strong force in 1876. He recruited Europeans and American generals and officers for his army. In the same year, about 15,000 Egyptian soldiers equipped with modern arms were sent to Ethiopia under the commander Mohammed Rauf Pasha. Second in command of his army was the American general Loring. On his part, Johannes did 2 things following his victory at Gundat. First, he continued to try to find a peaceful solution through European arbitration. Secondly, he warned Ismail to respect his borders. When diplomacy failed to bring peace, Johannes once again mobilized his army for a second time. A more bloody war than the Gundat was fought between 7 up to 9 March 1876 at the Battle of Gura. The Battle of Gura resulted in heavy loss on both sides. Ethiopia achieved resounding victory once again. Egyptians lost a significant number of arms and prisoners to the Ethiopians. Ethiopia scored 2 victories within a matter of 4 months. Egyptian soldiers, almost all dead, and some become prisoners. The Egyptian expansion to Ethiopia Egyptian expansion and their claim to Ethiopia's property was never stopped. For the third time, at the time of Emperor Johannes, they tried to invade Ethiopia using the Sudan Mahdists. As I say, both in history and in current time, Egypt never stopped to attack Ethiopia and destabilize Ethiopia. They don't even stop claiming Ethiopia's property. For example, the whole Nile River they are claiming, and the Dere Sultan Monastery at Jerusalem, Israel, which is Ethiopia's property. A gift of Queen Sheba from King Solomon. But for the future, every Ethiopians have hope that Egypt will leave Ethiopia alone and they will give peace for Ethiopia and for themselves. Thank you for listening. Peace upon Ethiopia. Peace upon the Horn of Africa. Peace upon the whole Africa. Thank you. God bless Ethiopia.